What is going on, Institute of Clinical Excellence? Welcome to Fitness Athlete Friday. I'm Dr. Zach Long, Doctor of Physical Therapy, lead faculty for the Institute of Clinical Excellence's Fitness Athlete Division. And today I'm excited to talk to you about some squat variations that you can prescribe to your athletes that are coming to see you to address some of their problem areas. But before we dive into that, I want to mention the ICE Sampler is coming up very, very soon in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're looking for a weekend jam-packed full of learning from some of the best instructors in the nation, please check out the ICE Sampler. We've got 9 of our top faculty heading to Vegas, and they're each going to be presenting between 1 and 2 hours of their absolute best content. I can't think of anywhere you could be. It's going to provide better value towards your development as a physical therapist or rehab provider. It looks like it's going to be just an absolutely awesome lineup. Hope a lot of you get to make it there. Now today, we're going to talk about some different squat variations that you can prescribe to your patients to help address their problem areas. Now this is something I use regularly in the clinic that really helps me get a lot of buy-in from athletes. Like, not only am I going to help you get over this injury that you're coming to see me for, but I'm going to give you some tips that long-term will allow you to be a better performing athlete. And these squat variations are a lot of my go-tos in this area. So let's say somebody comes to me, I'm treating them for low back pain, but I ask them, hey, do you have any recent videos of you lifting heavy? And I take a look at their most recent heavy squat lift, and I notice that the way they move would indicate to me that their back's weak, or their hips are weak, or their quads are weak. This is where I jump in and say, hey, this is a great looking squat, but I think there are some things that you can do that would really clean this up a little bit. And that's when I'll talk to them about adding in some of this work as a temporary replacement to what they're currently doing in their training program. Now, as I go through these squat variations, you're also going to have some light bulbs going off in your head on, oh, that's a cool squat variation that I can use with an individual dealing with this injury to keep them squatting while we rehab those tissues. So think about it from a performance perspective and also from a how do we keep people active when they're injured perspective. So we're going to talk about 5 unless I get on a roll and talk about like 20 of them. But we're going to start with belt squat. Belt squat's typically one of my go-to squat variations to give to athletes. So we can set this up in a couple different ways. But basically a belt squat is where we're taking a belt and it's attached around the hips and the weight is then loaded from that belt. Which basically means that we're going to really, really unload the lumbar spine. So if somebody's dealing with some back issues, this is a great way to keep them squatting despite them not being able to tolerate a lot of load on their back. Why do we give somebody from a performance perspective belt squats? Well, that's somebody that maybe has a stronger back relative to their legs. So when they're squatting, I see them shoot their hips up and they go into what we call a good morning squat because they preferentially want to load their hips and low back muscles. So we put them in this belt squat and we put them in a situation where we know that they're going to have to be loading their legs a little bit more than otherwise. A couple different ways to load this up. Number one, some gyms have belt squat machines. That's a really easy way to get somebody doing it. Number 2, and what we'll see a lot is athletes standing in between 2 boxes with a dip belt holding the weight between their legs, and then they'll squat in between those 2 boxes. Now the problem with that setup is it's incredibly difficult to get a significant amount of weight up onto the boxes and stand in between them and get up and down out of the setup. It becomes messy, and a lot of times it's also scary. So I like belt squats, and for, I see a lot of high-level CrossFitters after like shoulder surgery, for example. I would love to have them doing belt squats, but I can't get them doing it off of a box because it's too risky for them to move in and out of positions. So we can also do a landmine setup where we take a barbell. One end of the barbell is on the ground or in a landmine post. You can look that up if you want more examples of it. The other end is where I have my dip belt attached. And it just lets us start from the ground, squat up, and go back down. I recently posted a video of that on my Instagram, which is at the Barbell Physio on Instagram, if you're looking to see a visual representation of how to do that. But that's a much easier way to set it up and much safer in terms of getting athletes in and out of positioning there for the belt squat. Up next, we're going to talk about the Zercher squat. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say before I talk about what the Zercher squat is, this is one that is painful on the forearm musculature. So be cognizant of that when you prescribe to somebody. It has to be somebody that can tolerate a significant amount of discomfort. But a Zercher squat is essentially where we hold a barbell in the crook of the elbow. And so because of the angle that it's pulling at, it really wants to pull the thoracic spine into a little excessive flexion. So it becomes an awesome exercise to train thoracic spine extension strength, which is something that very, very few athletes put time on working on. So I'll see a lot of athletes that say we're doing a front squat or they're doing clean. As they stand up out of the hole, you'll see their upper back start to cave in because they lack enough thoracic spine strength to keep their spine extended. Very, very, very common fault. And Zercher squats or Zercher carries are an excellent way to work on improving that. You might want to have them place a pad or a towel or something in the crook of their elbows to make that a little bit more comfortable, but it is an awesome squat variation to have in your back pocket. The third variation we're going to talk about is hanging band technique squats. So that's where we take a barbell or PVC pipe and we have large resistance bands hanging from the PVC pipe or barbell and some weights down at the bottom. So this is going to create a setup where we've got weights swinging all over the place and it gets a little crazy. When I use this variation is in athletes that have a significant amount of difficulty stabilizing weight overhead or really need to dial in some fine points with their technique. Because the weights are swinging around so much, any variation outside of optimal technique there is going to really punish that athlete. So they're going to have to learn to really control movement really rapidly with hanging band technique work. I'll also say that hanging band technique work is something that I regularly use with athletes that come to me with complaints of shoulder instability. I see a huge population of people that come to me, they've done rehab somewhere else, and usually it's after like a slap tear that they treat with conservative management or other feelings of instability, and they go through the general PT where they're doing rotator cuff strengthening, periscapular strengthening, and they say like, look, I'm 80% better, I can do heavy presses overhead, I can do heavy bench press, but you know what, you asked me to do an overhead squat, you asked me to do a snatch or jerks, and all of a sudden this shoulder just feels really unstable and I'm not confident in it at all. So they made it to 80%, but they can't get over the hump past 80%. Using hanging band technique is one of my go-to drills there for just building confidence in them. I don't think that it does anything super special neuromuscularly that makes certain things fire better than other things or trains them to stabilize more quickly. I think it just builds confidence. It makes them think that they're not as fragile in that joint as they have a feeling after dealing with an injury. And that's something that really, really, really quickly will clean up somebody that's in that case of feeling like they're 80% better after dealing with the instability issue in the shoulder. So definitely keep that one in your toolbox. Up next, we're going to talk about Spanish squats. Spanish squats are an awesome exercise for a wide range of conditions. But basically, we're going to take a heavy, heavy resistance band or heavy belt and tie it to a rig or something stable. And that goes behind both of our knees. So it's almost like we're doing a bilateral terminal knee extension, except we then squat down. And I typically teach this with a very vertical shin. It's a really awkward looking squat, but it keeps tension on the quads the entire time, but seems to not put as much stress on the knee joint itself. So it's incredibly well tolerated by people dealing with knee joint issues, dealing with patellofemoral issues for sure. It allows us to get an incredibly good training stimulus on the quadriceps. So I'll use it with people with weak quads or people dealing with knee injuries that still want to squat that don't tolerate a lot of loading. Spanish squat is kind of my go-to variation there. There's even been some research out lately, and I can't remember the author's name right now, so I apologize for that. But they use isometric Spanish squats in the treatment of patellofemoral pain. So a great exercise to be using in the clinic is the Spanish squats. And the last one I want to talk about today are Kang squats. So Kang squats are a little weird. If I see somebody moving and I feel like this is somebody whose quads are significantly stronger than their hips and low back, we can go with Kang squats, K-A-N-G, Kang. So we got a barbell in the back. The athlete's going to squat down. When they get to the bottom of the hole, they're then going to shoot their hips up, and they're going to go into like a good morning position, and then stand up. That's one version of it. Another version, they'll squat down, hips go up, hips go back down, squat up. In either variation of the Kang squat, we're basically going into that good morning position so that we're preferentially loading the low back, hips and hamstrings, and we can use that as a variation to improve their low back and hip strength. So we got 5 different drills that you can use and you can prescribe to athletes to address maybe some pain when they're injured, or what I like to use it for is to prove that I understand the performance aspect of their sport so that they understand that I am the person that they need to see for their injuries when they want to be performing high-level barbell movements. Those 5 exercises, again, were the belt squat, the Zercher squat, hanging band technique squats, Spanish squats, and king squats. Again, before I log off, guys, make sure you check out the Ice Sampler in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be an awesome time. And I hope you go. Hope you get a lot out of it. As always, if you have questions or requests for episodes, feel free to shoot me a message or anybody within the fitness athlete division. We'd love to help you out on the Ice Daily Show. Have a great Friday. Happy Easter to those of you that celebrate.